One element of Disneyland that I loved learning about years ago was that the original 4 lands of the park were essentially reflective of 4 popular film genres at the time. You had your sci-fi films of the 40s and 50s, animated fantasy films, the classic westerns of American cinema, and jungle adventures of the 1930s. These lands appealed to guests because they were settings and concepts that they were already familiar with thanks to the movies they watched. That got me thinking, what would Disneyland look like if it was rebuilt today with the same idea? Just a quick house rule first. I follow the assumption that, like the original lands of Disneyland, the new lands would contain original rides with a similar theme, not branded IP tie-ins. In other words, none of this pays attention to what Disney does or doesn't own. It's more about the genre, not the specific movies that inspire them. So with that out of the way, let's start with Tomorrowland. Tomorrowland is one of the 2 lands that I think would still exist today. I don't know if it'd be named Tomorrowland, but there's no question that science fiction is as popular as ever. The difference, though, is that the tone of sci-fi has changed tremendously since Walt's era. Disneyland's Tomorrowland was an optimistic look at the future. It wagered that the advances in technology would solve our problems and lead to a new era of discovery and adventure. Today, that's changed. Sci-fi films, especially ones based on Earth, tend to be much darker. Some might say that's pessimistic, and others might say it's realistic. Today, more than ever, we love dystopias. Perhaps it's because it scratches a survival itch we have, or maybe it's just satisfying to see underdog heroes attack and topple an oppressive authority. With so many films focusing on technology leading to our personal or collective downfall, maybe we look for reminders that technology isn't the answer to our problems, but a tool to help us find those answers. Whatever the reason, I suspect a fresh Tomorrowland of 2018 would be a lot darker than the current one. Initially, I wondered if there would be appeal in that. Would we want to escape to a theme park land so dreary and dark? Then I considered that these films are so prevalent because we like to watch them. We love to play video games in these worlds, and if Alien Encounter is any indication, we would also enjoy inhabiting them at a park. Perhaps in keeping with Disney's family-friendly tone, we would see a land closer to the teen dystopian worlds of Hunger Games or Maze Runner than Blade Runner and Mad Max. Fantasyland is the other land that I think we would still see today, but similar to Tomorrowland, I think today's Fantasyland would be very different. While the original Fantasyland was Walt's playground for Disney's very own animated films, I think today's Fantasyland would draw more inspiration from franchises like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. While the era of fantasy from Walt's time was retelling of fairy tales, modern audiences seek out more depth in not only the characters, but also the plots and the settings for these films. We look for stories that don't just feel like fables with no subtext, but tales with depth from actual worlds that might exist out there, and inhabited by characters who feel real despite their origin. I think attractions in Fantasyland would have more of an adventurous and grand tone to them. Think less small enclosed dark rides, and more exciting rides with big reveals of fantasy vistas and besting monsters and evil. Now, as much as I love both classical and modern westerns, I think it's difficult to argue that it's a genre with the same power that it had in the 1950s and 60s, so I think this land would go. I can, however, think of a subgenre as popular today as the westerns were 60 years ago. Superhero films. Come on, this one was obvious. I'm sure plenty of people are going to point out how they're tired of superhero movies, and I'd believe you. Between Marvel and DC duking it out and all the other studios trying to get in on the action, we could see 5 big-budget superhero movies a year or more. That said, the box office is a great indicator that tells us that for most people, they still love them. This is one land where I think it's easy to see them using specific IPs. After all, Disney bought Marvel and carries a lot of the responsibility when it comes to the genre being as prevalent as it is today. So yeah, the easy answer here is a Marvel-themed land filled with action-packed e-ticket attractions. I would personally hope we would see the Avengers of rides, a series of attractions each with their own storyline, but storylines that all added to one overall plot playing out across the land. I made a video about this idea a while back if you want to know more. The final land, Adventureland, was admittedly the toughest for me to think of. I almost wonder if it's because the landscape of film today, for as much as we mock it for all being the same, has grown so nuanced that we can't lump everything into clean-cut genres anymore. Or maybe I'm just dumb and missing something. In any case, Adventureland and rides like the Jungle Cruise are callbacks to adventure films of the 1930s and 40s, and capture the spirit of going off to faraway lands filled with exotic wonders and dangers. When I tried to think of a modern genre that carried that same spirit, it hit me. Spy movies. James Bond, Jason Bourne, Ethan Hunt. Spies are all about heading off to dangerous and exotic countries to foil some evil plot or save some helpless victims or even the world. And while those examples lean towards the more gritty and realistic side of the genre, we've also seen a slight resurgence in the more lighthearted style of spy film. I think if this were to happen in Disney, it would likely lean more towards Man from U.N.C.L.E. than Bourne Identity, but I think it'd be fun nevertheless. Maybe the attractions here could focus on interactive elements, allowing guests to solve mysteries and act as a spy themselves using all of the interactive tools Disney is bringing to the table these days. As for Main Street USA, well, I leave that up to you. Let me know in the comments what you think a modern day take on Main Street might look like. You can also let me know what other genres you think might have been a better fit in place of these for the lands around the park. Like I said before, this is just a fun creative exercise. I don't think Disney would actually do any of these today, except maybe Marvel Land, and I don't necessarily think any would carry the same charm that Disneyland's current areas carry. However, I think it serves as a good reminder that so much of what we see in the parks is heavily influenced by the world around us. If Disneyland was built just a few decades later, it might have looked entirely different. Personally, I'm glad we have the one we got.